Hi, welcome back to another day of In the Sewing Story with me. For today, my goal is to finish sewing the keychain pictures back so I know what else is needed to revise. I don't think there is any revision needed except for that one pattern cutout template that does need a minor revisions. But other than that, I think the pattern is pretty solid, although I can't really tell until I sew it together and actually see the finished products. So that is my goal today, is to get that wrap up and see where we are at with it. Now before we get started on sewing that keychain bag, I gonna do a quick check-in on my paper experiment. These are paper that are similar to paper bags, and I've been trying to see if I could figure out how to hack them so that they could be similar to the Supernatural paper. And in case you're curious why Supernatural paper is interesting to me, is because I saw this at Trader Joe and they advertise this paper bag as washable. And when I read into it, it is made of supernatural paper, which means that it can be washed if needed and used and reused over and over again. So that to me was very awesome. I never thought that you could wash paper. So I've been trying to work on developing a technique on how we can actually make the same types of paper. So yesterday I did the final steps with this experiment, which is adding the sealer. And today I can't wait to see how they turns out. So what I'm looking for in this experiment is to get the same texture or the same feel as the Supernatural paper that Trader Joe's bag is made of. Actually, I'm not even sure if this is dry. It feels extra tacky, and I'm not sure if that's how it's supposed to feel. I thought that it will just be not as tacky. When I add the first layer, it wasn't tacky. It was actually pretty similar to the Trader Joe's bag. But because I want to make it washable, I added a sealer, and now I think I might be regretting it. I'm just gonna set this aside and let it dry for a few more days and see how it goes. Hopefully it works out for me. In case you're curious, this is the actual mini backpack pattern that I've been trying to work on. And when I was developing this pattern, I noticed that I've been using a lot of fabric just to test out some design in the front panels or the side and how to put it all together. So my way of saving fabric was actually making these keychain side, which is a lot smaller. I just want to see how to put them together and what I want the overall looks of the bag to look like. So I made these just to test out the fabric pattern, the design of it. But then they turned out so cute, so now I'm actually gonna make these into an actual kit once I figure out the pattern templates and how to put them together easily. So yesterday we worked on the front and the back exterior panels, and here are the rest of the panels that we need to figure out how to put together. When I was looking at the side pockets panel, I was debating whether to lay it this way or this way because of the pattern print. But I think I'm going to lay it this way because if you are facing the pockets on the side, which is this part right here, you want to see the art facing in your directions. Versus if I have done it this way, which makes sense because the bottom panels will align perfectly with the side pockets. But then when you look straight on, it will look a little off. So I'm just gonna go this way. I don't think you will notice the direction of the print is different because the bottom of the bag you won't be able to see as much. Like here, you won't be able to see that really when you put the bag down or when you're facing the back on the side. One other thing I just noticed when I was laying it on the gussets is that I saw this pieces on wrong. I noticed that at first I didn't have a lining for the inside. And then when I was laying on here, I noticed that I also was not planning to add it on like this way. I totally forgot how I designed the pattern to be put together. Okay, I figured it out. So what I designed the pattern to be is that little middle part is going to go onto the exterior panels, and then I attach it to the lining via the top panel. Once I did that, flip it over. And now all I have to do is top stitch so that we could have a nice seam on top here, and then attach it to the gusset. Both panels are fixed. Next up is to attach it to the gusset, but I think before I do that, I want to make a marking where the zipper will be so that it's easier for me to add the zipper. A tip I learned to make this step a lot easier is to binder clips along the edges here and the middle so that it forces the seam to be full over. And then I will crease it with this little creaser, and this will make adding the zipper to this panel very easy. And then I think for zipper, I wanted to go this way. Let's see. Gotta make sure that the zipper is facing the right direction. So looking at this zipper is going this way, so I want the zipper to also close towards this side so that it will go this way. If you have sewing tapes, it will help secure the zipper in place. I hate using sewing tape just because it gets sticky on my needles. So what I usually do is, for testing pattern, I don't really care much. I usually just fold the fabric in and clips it right there just to secure it in place temporary. And then I will usually start sewing in the middle here and then work my way all around, and that will help secure the zipper in place after I remove the clips. So this is how I usually do it. I added the zipper and as well as the side pockets, and this is perfect. Look at this, it's just perfect. I also went ahead and attached the bottom gusset to this top gusset part so that we are ready to do the next steps. Based on my previous experiments with the different techniques on how to put the backpack together, I learned that bias bindings make your life a lot easier. Last time when I did the bias binding, I struggled a lot with trying to attach it to the raw edges seamlessly and making sure that I don't have any skipped corners or edges, that I only sew the bias tape to itself instead of to the panels I want to sew it to. I have been watching a lot of sewing tutorials trying to figure out how to make adding the bias tape to the back a lot easier. And one of the techniques I learned is that you sew the bias tape onto this panel here as an unfolded piece. also went ahead and add the swivel hooks to the back panel. And the reason why I choose the back panel instead of the front panel is because when I was making these little mini ones, I did an experiment where I added to the front, and I noticed when I turn it over, the back is not as stable. It tends to tilt towards the back versus when I add to the back panels, the back is more stable and doesn't really have that heavy tilt. I do prefer that it tilt forward a little bit more than it tilts backward. The best scenario is that you add the swivel hooks in between here, but because we have the zipper there, you can't really do that. So the back panel is the best option. It is now another day. I didn't finish sewing the back last night. I was really tired toward the end of the day, so I figured I just, put on hold and come back with a fresh mind today. So what I did yesterday is I completely add the bias tape to the gussets. Now when I was sewing the bias tape on one side of the gusset, I realized that when I fold it over on the other side, it's a little too short. So then what I did is I cut a thicker piece. That way I could guarantee when I fold it over, there's a little wiggly room. So here's my game plan. So the next thing I'm gonna do is close up this gusset so that it became like a loop. And then I'm going to attach both the exterior panels to this part. And once we get there, I guess we will figure out how to apply the bias tape. Looking at this, now I start to question when is the right time to add the bias tape. Because if we add it before we add the lining to the gusset, then you have an edge here where you can't top stitch and it will be visible on the exterior. So it'll look really funny. So the option is you don't have to top stitch here. Okay, maybe I don't really know how to use this method because I now can't unroll my bias tape because I already saw it in the middle here. You see that point right there? I just realized that with this method I just did, I can't undo the bias tape at this connection point, so it's on the end. So now I'm gonna go and take my seam ripper and I'm gonna undo all my work to the point where before we add the bias tape. All the bias tape has been removed. I also sewed it back again so that it's now a loop. The next thing I'm gonna do is add the bias tape to the exterior side of the gusset. Now, since I am redoing this part, I also recalculate the width of the gusset, making it a lot thicker so that it will be easier for us to do the bias binding later. I ended up seam ripping all the way back to from the beginning again for the third time because I learned that if you add the bias tape to the exterior side of the gusset, the edge where it's full over will be visible on the exterior panel. So the correct way to add the bias tape to this bag is to add it on the interior side, which is the lining. Then you add one of the back or front panel, then you fold over. So I did it towards the back of the bag. As you can see, my seam here are very smooth. And here's what it looked like on the inside. This is what it looks like on the inside, where I fold over my bias tape. Look very clean. But what I didn't like about it is how thick it is. So you look at this edge, you will notice that it's extra thick. And I don't know how I feel about that it's being extra thick. I was gonna work on the other side as well, but then I realized that when I was sewing this, I didn't really clip it in place correctly. So the oval shape that I ended up with is not the correct shape. This is the correct shape that it's supposed to be. And then it's more like an oval shape, more like there's no seam on the bottom, and I also make it a little cricket at the bottom here. So I'm gonna take my time on this and really seam rips the edge here and redo the attachment point where I added the back. I think I'm gonna stop here for today. I really want to take some time to do some research on how to fix some of the issues I found while making this bag, as well as possibly find a way to reduce this bias binding thickness. I doubt there is a way, because I think the bias binding thickness could be a result of how many layers of fabric there are. I also noticed that I missed a piece on my pattern for the top parts here, so I need to fix that as well. Yeah, there's a lot of things to fix on it. So I do want to take my time and really figure out all this. The pattern template, the sizing of the bag overall looks good. It's now just focusing on the techniques of putting this bag together. I really want to make the process of putting this bag together very easy. So I want to do my research and really apply it to this bag. So yeah, that's all I have for today. Have fun creating and see you in the next video. Bye!